The fluorescent light in the linen room hums like a nervous violin. Sophia Reyes presses her shoulder to a tower of folded sheets as the international number lights her cracked phone. Mevrouw Reyes, the warm Dutch voice says, you bent Jesslog professional fluency with distinction. For a heartbeat she cannot breathe. Her hand finds the cool metal shelf, knuckles whitening, and then the words arrive round and certain like they have been waiting behind her teeth for years. Thank you well. Thank you. The sound of it fills the tiny room. A laugh slips out, small, disbelieving, and she bites it back because staff are not supposed to take calls, not supposed to be anything but efficient and invisible. She tucks the phone into her apron, presses both palms to her face, and lets the joy wash over her in one quiet wave. Outside, the service corridor breathes. Carts rattling, doors hissing, voices keeping low so guests never hear the world that keeps theirs flawless. Sophia moves like she always does, sure, careful, no wasted motion. But now everything looks edged and light. On her break she sits alone, as usual, in the corner of the staff cafeteria where the vents hum louder than gossip. She opens her battered notebook, writes one new sentence in Dutch in neat, careful script. If no one hears me yet, I will speak anyway. 2 tables away, a man in a charcoal suit pauses mid-sip. He should not be here. Men like him live on the guest side of the world, not in this humming back hallway of plastic trays and industrial coffee. But Daniel Hartman has been chasing a knot in his chest since yesterday, when a single Dutch phrase drifted through this room like a hand on his shoulder. He tells himself he is only here for an unscheduled operations check. He does not mention the voice. He watches Sophia whisper syllables to herself without moving her lips, then slip the notebook back into her pocket the way someone might pocket a talisman they cannot afford to lose. Next morning, the internal line crackles. Ms. Reyes, room 403, HR. Her stomach dips. The elevator seems to count floors with a hammer. Inside the director's office, the windows eat up Central Park and the desk gleams like a lake. Director Mallory sits statue straight. Beside her, that same man from the cafeteria. Up close, he looks like an advertisement for restraint. He turns, and the restraint becomes something else, attention. Ms. Reyes, he says, voice lower than she expected, I heard you speaking Dutch. Is that true? She nods, heat rising to her face. I passed the exam yesterday. A corner of his mouth lifts, not a smirk, more like recognition. We're piloting a role, international guest relations. We need someone brilliant and discreet. He slides a navy envelope toward her. Triple salary. Training starts Monday, only if you want it. She does not move. The room blurs around the rectangle of paper. Somewhere in the hallway a phone rings, a printer spits, the world keeps working. She reaches. The envelope is heavier than paper should be. On the elevator down, the mirror throws back a woman she barely recognizes. Same uniform, same braid, but something high in her chest has opened a window. She practices a sentence under her breath, testing the future on her tongue. In the lobby she passes the founder's photo, all suits and victory flowers. She wonders how many names in that frame the world ever bothered to learn. Outside, February wind bites her knuckles. She tucks the envelope deep in her coat and heads for the subway. Up on the mezzanine, a man in a charcoal suit rests one hand on the brass rail and watches her cross the marble like she is walking a new shoreline. If this story moves you, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. Your support is what keeps this channel alive. At the turnstile she looks back once, not up, not around, only forward into a life that for the first time feels like it might be hers to speak aloud. Monday morning, the Navy uniform stays on its hanger like a past life that has not said goodbye. Sophia steps through the revolving doors in a sand-colored blazer, flats that do not squeak, hair in a soft low bun. The new badge on her lapel, International Guest Relations Dutch/Spanish/Italian, feels suspiciously like permission. People look up. Some blink, recognizing the maid. Others register only a stranger in a blazer and return to their screens. Rachel at the front desk leans in with a conspiratorial smile. I'm supposed to be your supervisor, she whispers, but honestly, I'm your cheerleader. She hands over a neat stack of printed schedules and a tiny tin of mints. For diplomacy, practice feels like ritual. Sophia plugs into a glass-walled nook and studies guest profiles, customs notes, and 3 different ways to ask for patience. She builds contingencies like scaffolding, flight delays, lost luggage, executives who confuse urgency with rudeness. In the margin of her notebook, she writes in Dutch, "I am ready because I have been ready in secret for years." Across the mezzanine, Daniel declines a lunch he would never have missed last month. In a quiet boardroom, he tells his chief of staff, "We've been polishing marble while ignoring the people who make it reflective." He does not say her name. He does not have to. The Dutch delegation arrives under a canopy of glass and gold. 4 figures with measured eyes, the kind that have seen 100 lobbies and decide quickly which ones pretend. Sophia opens the revolving door with a grounded smile. "Welkom bij de Harrington Grand. Ik ben Sophia Reyes, ik zal voor u zorgen." Heads tilt. Shoulders loosen a 1/4 inch. She moves them through check-in like a current. A joke here, a precise clarification there, a small translation of culture that spares everyone embarrassment later. When a seating chart misprint ignites a sharp word from the senior investor, she absorbs the heat, apologizes in Dutch, and produces a corrected chart before the room finishes remembering it is annoyed. By sunset, her shoes ache and her cheeks hurt from making the difficult look effortless. On the rooftop garden, the city's noise drops to a steady hush. Lanterns float like soft planets. She lets the day drain out through her shoulders. The sliding door whispers. Daniel steps onto the pavers, tie loosened, the edge of a smile he seems undecided about. "You were extraordinary," he says. "You made a room full of storms feel like weather." She laughs, surprised by the metaphor and the accuracy. "I just listened between the words." They stand at the railing, not touching, not pretending they do not want to. "Walk after your shift tomorrow?" he asks. No agenda. She studies the skyline as if it might answer for her. "Yes," she says to the city, to herself, to him. That night in Queens, her mother pours tea into 2 chipped mugs and touches the new badge like a small sacrament. "Majida, don't let them change your kindness," she says in Spanish. Sophia kisses her temple. "They can't," she answers. "It's the only thing I own outright." In her room, she slides the battered vocabulary notebook from her bag, traces a page with her finger, and adds one more line. "When the door opens, step through. Then hold it for someone else." The rooftop feels like a private sky borrowed from a softer movie. Planters with rosemary lean into the wind. Lanterns blink awake. Daniel waits with his hands in his pockets, posture finally imperfect. "I thought you might cancel," he says. "I almost did," Sophia admits. "Then I remembered I've survived harder rooms than this." That pulls a laugh out of him, not the corporate kind, something unarmored. They sit on a slatted bench. The city miles below becomes a hush and an outline. First, Rotterdam summers on a bicycle too big for him. A mother who braided Dutch into lullabies and insisted that excellence and gentleness could share a spine. A father gone when he was 11, a mother gone before college, the quiet conviction that building an empire might drown the noise grief leaves behind. "It didn't," he says. "It only taught me to schedule it." Sophia listens the way interpreters do, with her whole face. When it is her turn, she speaks carefully so the words don't wobble. 2 jobs since 19. Library textbooks with due dates that chased her through winter. The white noise of being overlooked until she almost believed invisibility was safety. "I started whispering verbs into empty rooms," she says. "At some point it sounded like prayer." A breeze lifts a strand of her hair. He tucks it behind her ear before he realizes what he's doing, then pulls his hand back like he has trespassed. "Sorry," she shakes her head. Sometimes you have to cross a line to know where the border really is. They do not kiss. They let the air hold what it can. The next days move like a symphony where she is both first chair and conductor. She guides the Dutch delegation through proposals that would have broken under a lesser hand. She translates numbers into meaning, impatience into clarity. The chairwoman known for granite is the one who softens first. "You bent zeldzam," she tells Sophia in a quiet elevator. "You are rare." Word finds corridors faster than memo blasts. PR requests peck at the door. Daniel tells comms no. Protect the work, not the myth. On Friday, the ballroom blushes in amber. Dessert arrives like jewelry. Daniel steps to the microphone with the stance of a man who hates spotlights but will stand in one for something that matters. Some talent hides in plain sight until someone listens, he says, then calls Sophia to the stage, not with spectacle, with sincerity. He announces her new role, Director of International Strategy, Europe. Applause rises like weather. In the lights she sees the maid she was last week and does not flinch. I was cleaning suites 7 days ago, she tells the room with a steady smile. I'll never stop cleaning, just different rooms now. It gets a laugh and then something else, respect. Backstage they stand closer than a professional thank you allows and not as close as both are thinking about. He whispers, I see you, Sophia. She breathes the answer more than says it. I believe you. Air over the Atlantic glows like cold glass. On the flight to Amsterdam, Sophia rereads her vocabulary notebook until the soft pages feel like skin. A line she wrote years ago trails across the margin. If no one hears you yet, speak anyway. She presses the book to her chest and closes her eyes. Amsterdam greets her with the clean geometry of canals and bicycles like punctuation. Opening night is a lattice of cameras and cordiality. Sophia's keynote begins in Dutch, braids to English and returns to Dutch to land. Echt luxe is een ervaring, geen facade, she says. Real luxury is experience, not facade. People stand. Later, on a balcony that smells like rain and river, Daniel joins her. He looks like a magazine cover and nothing like it at all. I've watched you build a bridge I didn't know existed, he says. She studies the canal. I just laid planks I needed for myself. They let the quiet be generous. The return to Manhattan is supposed to be celebration. Instead, Monday comes with an email that hums like an alarm. A gossip site posts a blurry rooftop photo and a headline with the word romance like it knows anything. Mallory from HR calls it a compliance matter and schedules a hearing. Sophia's chest hollows. In a draft folder, she writes a resignation letter that tastes like iron, then deletes it before the send button can dare her. Daniel orders an internal review, then recuses himself from every decision that touches her job. We will do this right, he says in a conference room that smells like paper and anxiety. Even if it costs me. She nods, but the elevator down feels like gravity doubled. Rumors have a way of gluing themselves to oxygen. A cousin texts. A neighbor mentions a headline. A stranger DM, gold digger like it is still 2009. Sophia turns off her phone, then back on, then off again. She cannot unknow what she knows. She earned what she has. She chooses to prove it. The night before the hearing, she takes her mother's hand across their small kitchen table. If this ends, I'll be okay, she says. If it doesn't, I'll make sure someone else's beginning is easier. Her mother squeezes back and says the only prayer she trusts, which is a hug that lasts a few extra seconds. The hearing room is beige and windowless, the kind of place where truth is asked to sit up straight. Legal counsel arranges binders like fortresses. A compliance officer clicks a pen in metronome time. Ms. Reyes, someone says, did Mr. Hartman influence your evaluations? She answers with receipts, timestamps, agendas, a trail of decisions that look boring until you understand they map a revolution. Did you receive favors? Only opportunities synchronized with proof. Did you meet outside of work? A pause. She will not erase the rooftop. We walked and talked. We didn't barter career for affection. We protected both. They write that down like it might be a sentence they can use later to warn or to teach. Daniel testifies last. He does not smooth the edges. I created a role because I heard excellence, he says. Any personal feeling came after, not before. I've recused myself and will continue to. If further distance is needed, I'll step aside. The board confers behind a door that sounds thicker than wood. 15 minutes stretch into a small eternity. When they return, the verdict splits the difference between caution and respect. Boundaries formalized, no violations found, roles preserved, scrutiny ongoing. Outside, cameras wait with open mouths. Inside the elevator to the 38th floor, silence finally has room to sit. They stand side by side, nowhere to put their hands. On 38, the doors close again like a curtain. I would have understood if you'd let me go, Sophia says into the small space between them. I would have deserved it if I had, he answers, eyes tired, voice steady. Coffee, he asks. Not a date. Not a date, she echoes, and they walk 2 blocks to a cafe whose chairs wobble and whose cinnamon makes a case for mercy. They talk about anything but themselves for 10 minutes, bridges, recipes, the way rain sounds on different roofs in different cities, until the truth circles back like it always does. If this ever costs me the work, Sophia says, fingers around the warm cup, it isn't love, it's a detour. He nods once. Then let's keep the road clear. They clink mugs because sometimes you need a ritual to make a promise audible. The next week tries to return to normal and fails. A winter storm snarls the city and knocks out power across Midtown. The hotel becomes a lighthouse. Daniel sleeps 3 hours in 40 and coordinates generators, cots, and soup like he is directing an orchestra made of logistics. Sophia walks floors with flashlights and hot cocoa, translating fear into calm in 3 languages plus the universal one, presence. At dawn, the lobby looks like a campsite of gratitude. A childless world would have learned nothing. This one learns how service scales. When the lights return, so does quiet. They sit on the grand staircase, shoes scuffed, hands almost touching. When did this become we? He asks, voice threadbare. Somewhere between the tea sachets and the blackout, she says. He nods and lets his head tip back against the banister. Don't change, he murmurs. Don't disappear, she answers. The promise is not romantic, it is architectural. 6 months learn how to fold into a life. Sophia leads expansions without forgetting the service corridor's physics. She proposes a bulletin wall near HR called Hidden Skills, staff Polaroids with one line under each name, not about the job they hold but the gift they hide. Dishwasher right arrow jazz pianist, concierge right arrow coder, bell captain right arrow beekeeper. The wall becomes a heartbeat guests ask to see. Numbers climb, but something better does too, posture. In Daniel's loft one late night, the kitchen lights are soft and domestic. He cooks salmon with lemon and parsley, sleeves rolled, wristwatch on the counter like a tiny moon. The piano by the window is shut, a ship in dry dock. Do you play? Sophia asks. I used to, he says, before metrics replaced music. She lifts the fallboard with 2 fingers like a secret. Play one song, no audience, just proof. He does. The first bars are halting, then his hands remember their courage. When the final note suspends, they don't rush to fill it. They let silence crown the moment. They still haven't named what they are. They do not need to. February returns with another test that is not about headlines. A transformer fails. Emergency lighting paints the lobby in cold blue and candle gold. Sophia directs a team that looks larger than it is because everyone believes they can be. Daniel coordinates with the city and the power company, voice low on the radio, eyes everywhere at once. Guests who pay to never notice the machine become witnesses instead. Later, social media calls the hotel a lighthouse with room service. Sophia smiles at the line and files it under stories that tell themselves. After 40 hours awake, they sit on the stairs again, the kind of tired that makes honesty easy. You said once excellence and gentleness could share a spine, she says. Your mother was right, he nods, eyes closing. I'd forgot. She leans her shoulder to his without asking and without apology. The next morning's inbox is a planet of gratitude. Buried in it is a note from a housekeeper in Amsterdam who writes in Dutch about night classes and fear and wanting to try anyway. Sophia types back before her first coffee. Laat me je helpen. Let me help. She means it. It becomes policy. Hidden Skills moves from bulletin board to budget line, then to global rollout. A bellman in Brussels starts a quartet in the atrium on Fridays. A pastry chef in Chicago turns leftover croissants into a community breakfast. Shareholders applaud because purpose performs. Daniel stands at the back of an all-hands and watches a company learn how to clap for its own people in the right direction. It feels less like leadership and more like stewardship, which he admits he prefers. One ordinary Tuesday, Sophia finds her old vocabulary notebook framed under museum glass on a hallway wall, her handwriting in looping ink. If no one hears you yet, speak anyway. Beneath it, a plaque in Daniel's tidy script. Thank you for speaking first. She sends him a photo and a single word. Rooftop. The rooftop garden hums in spring like a room that knows the song before the band arrives. Daniel has set 2 mugs of mint tea on the bench. her mother's habit grafted into his life. He carries a small velvet case the color of shadow. There is no podium here, no prepared remarks. I don't want to rush a headline, he says, but I do want to mark a truth. He opens the box, a slender ring that looks more like a line of light than a jewel. Will you build the long road with me, slow, real, equal? Sophia exhales a laugh that is mostly relief and a little incredulity. Ja, she says first, then translates because this is their language now. Yes. The kiss they share is not cinematic in the showy way. It is the kind you would miss if you blinked, which feels correct, because most of what made them is what no one else saw. News leaks gently, an internal memo about transparency and boundaries, a small paragraph in a business site drowned by bigger headlines that day. Comment sections try to spin, fatigue outvotes fury. People are tired of cynicism. They want competence with a spine. Sophia returns to work with a ring she wears like a secret. In Amsterdam, the housekeeper who wrote to her meets in a quiet break room. They speak Dutch at a table with a coffee stain, and it sounds like ceremony. Laat me je helpen, Sophia repeats. Beginnen we hire her. Let's start here. Back in New York, she finds the piano open. Daniel sits with his back to the door, hands on the keys the way some people hold prayers. She leans in the frame and listens. When he notices her, he does not stop. The melody bends around the room they both used to think belonged to numbers alone. When the last note dissolves, she crosses the space and rests her forehead to his. No speech. No vows. Just two people choosing again, which is the only way choosing works. Tomorrow will be emails and escalations and a flight at 7 a.m., but tonight, the garden above them and the music between them say what needs saying. They are building something that will outlast a press cycle. They do not stage an engagement tour. They stage good work. HR publishes the Hidden Skills Framework as policy, not a poster. Recruitment starts asking, what gift do you carry that your resume does not? The answers change hearing. In Brussels, the Bellman's Quartet becomes a weekly ritual guests plan trips around. In Chicago, the pastry chef's community breakfast fills a neighborhood with the smell of butter and second chances. In Tokyo, a night auditor teaches staff a 5-minute breathing practice between shifts. Numbers notice, so do people. On an ordinary Tuesday, the elevator opens to a hallway display that stops Sophia mid-step. Her battered vocabulary notebook sits under glass with Daniel's note. If no one hears you yet, speak anyway. She laughs, tears pooling, and texts him a photo with a single pin icon. Rooftop. Up there, the garden has learned their footsteps. 2 mugs of mint tea. The skyline like a long exhale. There's 1 plank left for our bridge, he says, and hands her an envelope. Inside, an offer nomming her Chief Global Experience Officer, board vote already secured. You built this job with your decisions, he says. I'm just catching up with the title. She looks at him, at the city, at the small square of paper that feels like the most honest promotion she has ever seen because it is not the beginning of trust, it is the receipt. Ready? He asks. She threads her fingers through his. Altaid, she says, stretching the syllables because certain words deserve time. Always. The wedding is small by rich people math and enormous by the scale that matters. A Saturday morning on the rooftop where a life changed directions. Lanterns, potted herbs, linen clipped to twine, the piano tuned and waiting. Rachel officiates in a navy dress with pockets because competence always has somewhere to put its hands. Vows are simple. Service, truth, laughter, fluency in each other's silences. I promise to listen between your words, Sophia says. I promise not to mistake control for care, Daniel answers. When they kiss, the city applauds in taxi horns 2 blocks away. Mallory from HR even smiles because rules were not bent, they were honored. After almond cake and small toast, Sophia slips down to the empty lobby. She rests her palm on a housekeeping cart parked by the service door like an old friend. The brass luggage tag Rachel gave her, Sophia's voice, catches the light. Daniel finds her there and leans on the cart too. I'll never stop cleaning, she says. Just different rooms, he grins. Then let's keep sweeping forward. Upstairs, the piano is ready. 1 song, she asks. Always, he says. The melody he found again the night she asked him to play spills into the room. Outside, taxis braid light. Inside, two people who once mistook invisibility for safety learn a better habit: to be seen and to keep seeing. If you're listening, somewhere between the silence of your hallway and the sound of your own soul, consider this your call. Answer it.